Hey guys, how's it going? So today I'm going to talk about what to look for when buying a used vehicle. Now, I am not a mechanic, and I really don't know a huge amount about cars, but I know a few things. So I'll share what I know, and maybe it'd be a place to start. And meanwhile, we can sit in front of the exit at the local Walmart, because that's always fun. So I just came back from looking at a van. It was a 2005 Chevy Express 4.8 liter, and I'll tell you a little bit about what happened and why I decided not to get it, and then I'll talk a little bit about what to look for when doing an inspection of a van. Now, keep in mind, I'm not a mechanic. I might know a few things mechanically speaking, but I am not any way, shape, or form a mechanic. So this van I looked at was a 2005 Chevy Express. It was the 4.8 liter. Originally, I was looking for a 4.3 liter, but after doing some reading, the 4.3 liter is a V6. After doing some reading, I'm seeing that most people recommend just getting the V8 4.8 because it's likely not going to make much difference in gas consumption, but you still have all the power. If anybody knows about that and has any idea about miles per gallon with the 4.3 V6 versus a 4.8 V8, please let me know in the comment section below. So when I looked over this van, there's a few things that are readily apparent. From his deck, when I walked through this front entrance, I could see the roof of the van was kind of a weird parking situation. So there was a dip in the back of the van near the third tail light, and I could see that from where I was standing on the front deck of this person's house. And there's because of that dip, somehow I guess that created a water situation, and there was a small patch of rust, probably about 6 inches by 1 inch. So that's one thing that was a turn off. Then as I checked out the van, right away I noticed that there's paint spilled everywhere. It was a painter's van. The guy used to be a painter, he's not painting anymore. But there's just paint everywhere, and I don't really care about the inside so much because I'm going to be obviously covering everything with plywood or whatever, and it didn't really matter to me that much, except that when I looked, the paint was absolutely everywhere. So even on the doors where I wouldn't cover it over with wood, I would have to like get some paint remover or something significant to fix that. So that was, and it was like on the steering wheel, it was on the seats, it was paint, it was everywhere. So that was a bit of a drawback for sure. Another thing I noticed is that the barn doors behind the passenger seat, they didn't operate 100% functionally, and when I looked closer I could see that there was like a dent in the van at the bottom, and he said the hinges need to be adjusted. Well, what the heck does that mean? And from my experience with old junky cars and vans, car doors are hard to fix, and you have to bring it to an auto body shop, and that might cost $300, $500, and I have a feeling, I don't know this for sure, but I have a feeling that they're not going to be able to get it as good as it was from the factory. Just a hunch. So that was definitely a drawback. Then I took it for a test drive, and mechanically it was really good. I mean, it had 170,000 kilometers, and it drove very well. The brakes were really good. I hit a few potholes on purpose to test the shocks, and they seemed very good. And the oil was good. He just changed it a little while ago, but he didn't have any paperwork, like receipts of oil changes, like a history of oil changes, which is kind of a strike against it. He also said that in the time that he owned the van, he hadn't done anything to the van except change oil, including brakes. I didn't ask how long he had the van for, but that's not a great sign. I would like the van to have routine maintenance, you know, spark plugs checks and brakes and all that stuff. So he didn't do any of that. He said he changed oil regularly, but he didn't have any paperwork to produce it. The sticker on the front of the windshield did say that he had still like 4,000 kilometers until the next change. So that was good. So mechanically, the van was pretty good. It didn't really have anything noticeable. The transmission shifted very smoothly. I made sure I warmed it up good and hot before I drove it around. And the transmission was good. The engine seemed good. The brakes are good. Shocks are good. A lot of positives. And then when there's a couple things that I didn't like. It didn't have air conditioning, which is another strike against it. Especially right now, today is like 25 Celsius. And you know, that's not especially hot, but it's nice to have air conditioning. I'm spoiled with my current car. My Transit Connect to have the AC. So not having air conditioning was not great. It was a base model vehicle. It also, the air did not blow outwards out of the vents. And it seemed to be blowing in the other directions, but it rains a lot in Vancouver, and I really need the front air blower to be blowing on the windshield very well to keep the rain and the interior smog free, because you know it's absolutely essential. And of course it's a nice sunny day and there's no condensation built up in the van on a day like today, but that was a major strike against it in my mind. I mean, you can get that fixed, but it was just a strike against it. Then when I was looking at the engine, I noticed a wet spot, and there's a drip underneath the master cylinder where the brake fluid is, and that was definitely another thing that needs to be fixed. And I asked him about it. I said, "Oh, did you notice this?" And at first he was like, "Oh, whoa." And then he said, "Oh yeah, I brought it to my mechanic. He said it's going to be $150 to fix, because it's just like a loose hose or something that needs to be replaced in the near the master cylinder." And the way he said it was, he kind of like, at first he didn't readily admit to it, and then once I talked about it, I said, "Well, it's all wet here. Obviously there's something dripping." And then I literally saw a drip of brake fluid come down. He goes, "Oh yeah, I remember now that my mechanic said that was going to be $150 to fix." I'm like, dude, why don't you just say it in the first place? You know, this is not something that he pointed out to me. I had to find it by myself. And these are the kinds of things, you know, you have to be aware of. Now the paint everywhere is obvious. There's no hiding it. So yeah, it was interesting situation there. You know, it always is, because the onus is on the buyer to do your due diligence and make sure that you know what's happening. Now I also checked the oil and transmission fluid. They both seem good. And I checked the radiator fluid, seemed fine. There's a lot of, the tires were good, but and he started off wanting 10,500. That was what his price was on Craigslist, and comparatively speaking, it's not really an excellent price. It's average for 170,000 kilometers. Kind of an average price. So I talked him down. I pointed out all these things that were wrong with it, and I said, well, I'm not going to pay you $10,000. I'm not going to do that. And I said, I'll offer you 9,500. And he said, okay. But having thought about this more, I decided to take a pass on the van. And yeah, so I talked him down $1,000 from all that, and I could probably get it fixed for close to that. But what a hassle. When you spend like 6 months to a year building a van, it's a huge commitment of labor. And I just don't want to buy any old thing with problems when I can spend a couple $1,000s more and get something with it's just nicer and is worthy of my investment of time. As money is not the only part of it, it's also all the time that goes into it. Anyways, guys, that's my my thoughts on van acquisition and what happened with the van I viewed today. The story continues. Thanks for watching. Take care. Have a good night.